Hey, welcome to the Redacted Apostate. My name is Nicole.
And I'm Carl.
And today we're going to talk about Chad Franke, who is Ruby Franke's son.
Oh, interesting. So not the Chad that's been in news lately, not Chad Daybell, but another Chad. We have a lot of Chads coming on right now.
There's a lot of Chads in Utah.
Okay.
That's what it is. So Chad Franke has been live streaming for the last couple of weeks, and I watched his live streams.
Oh, right. That's the guy that you were watching on the Twitch. He's doing like Twitch live streams.
Right.
Got it.
And what he's doing is he's answering questions about his family for money, essentially. Yeah. While playing a video game.
I mean, that sounds like horrible. People that talk about stuff for money, they're horrible people.
Right. Well, good thing we don't make any money. Make no money off of this.
Fair enough.
Right. Well, I mean, he was answering some really personal questions about his life, where he is currently. And watching where he's at, I feel like he's in this real liminal space where he's figuring out who he is, but it's so hard because he's coming out of a cult on top of a cult, and he's in that age where you should be figuring out who you are.
Yeah.
But now he's trying to undo all the brainwashing, and from outside looking in, based on my perspective, it just seems like he's trying to figure all this stuff out.
How old is he?
I think he's 19, early 20s, somewhere around there.
Right. Because, I mean, like when you're 19 and 20, that's when you're just starting to figure out things.
Right.
Not just who you are, but also how the world works and how everybody interprets you.
And it's especially hard for him because he's dealing with all this trauma that he's had to work through.
Yeah, and that's a really good point.
And I don't know if he's doing it right or wrong. There is no right or wrong in his situation because none of us have ever really been in that exact situation.
Right.
To have your whole life filmed on camera and have it be to have all of your trauma filmed on camera.
Yeah. I mean, and if you think about it, he's got video evidence of what's going to last his entire life.
Right.
He's going to be known as that kid in the videos.
Right.
So do you think, and it's one of the issues that I kind of had watching the stream, is that if you've lived your whole life on camera and all of your trauma being on camera, that you choose a career path that puts you on camera and back in the limelight again.
It's hard because what else does he do? He has a certain set of skills, right? Like he has the Taken skills.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to go into a Taken podcast on this, are we? Okay. All right, cool. Just making sure he's not going to be rescuing his daughter from, sort of kidnapping victim, right?
Right. Okay, so he has a certain set of skills that he learned from his mother, and he's good looking.
Right.
He's a good looking kid, and he's really wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I think about when I see him is he was labeled a bad kid for doing normal
from
kids,
his mom.
by his mom and by Jody Hildebrandt, and probably his dad, because his dad is a piece of work.
Well, and also probably from the millions of people that would watch her channel as well.
Label him a bad kid.
Right. If you're watching it and you're learning, mother skills, how to discipline your children and stuff like that, and she keeps talking about this child being a bad kid, and you got millions of views. I mean, maybe they're not saying it specifically. I'm sure there's some comments in the comment section about it, but I'm sure there was a lot of people out there going, yeah, the kid's bad because you're telling us he's bad and you're disciplining him.
I think a lot of people were on the other side of that fence trying to call Child Protective Services. And
I don't disagree that happened. But, you put out a video and you're going to get a lot of love and hate.
Yeah. It's really difficult with him because when I look at some of the stuff he got in trouble for and when he got sent to that Reeducation camp, the Anasazi.
Oh, he went to one of those?
They did. They sent him to one of those. And he got kicked out of his house for having girls over. That's what he said in the stream. He got kicked out of his house for having girls over. And it baffles me. We have a son who's autistic, and if he had girls over, I would be ecstatic.
You go,
what? He's got a girl over?
Like, what happened?
Yeah. I mean, I know you're cute. You've got girls over. I would be so happy.
I mean, we'd feign being angry, but but deep down be like,
we'd be high-fiving.
So proud of you, boy.
And here he is getting kicked out of the house for normal teenage boy behavior.
Well, wait a minute. How old was he when he got kicked out of the house if he's only 19 now?
I think he was like 15 or 16, somewhere around there.
What the hell?
That's what he said in the stream. And it's really disheartening to see that kind of abuse. And he also, one of the things that he said was, I felt like I deserved this kind of punishment.
Of course,
That's
because
how brainwashed he was.
Because you're being told every day that you're worthless.
Yeah.
You start to believe it.
And he's not. He's so wholesome. He very rarely swore on any of those streams. He seemed like the nicest kid.
Yeah.
He probably isn't. He's probably just a normal.
We all have our issues. Yeah.
Normal, good, bad, all over the place, but not bad enough to be kicked out of the house and sent away to a re-education camp. Like, not that bad. He's very much trying to figure out who he is, and he's answering these questions. I think it got to the point where he decided he wasn't going to answer any questions. Yeah. It just got too much for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, too, how many times do you answer the same question over and over again?
Right. Right.
After a while, you're just like, I'm tired of answering these questions.
And it becomes less about therapy and more about, I don't know, the catching on to riding the fame train, I guess. I don't know what it is. You probably just get sick of talking about it after a while.
Yeah. Even if you're okay with it.
I know.
You've dealt with it. You know?
Yeah, I don't ever talk about my past. I remember one time I was dating this guy, and he was in the Peace Corps. And
Ooh.
Yeah. And he wouldn't shut up about it. He was like a vegan.
How do you know a guy's in the Peace Corps? He's going to tell you about it.
Tell you about it. And he said to me, I don't understand why you don't talk about your past the way I talk about the Peace Corps. It seems like that's a big part of your life. And I never really wrapped my head around it. And I think because I'm just the kind of person that just I just move on. I did talk about my past a lot when back closer to when I left. But now I don't ever, like, that's not a part of my identity at all, my cult upbringing.
Yeah. And, I mean, I've known you for a while now. And
a while.
A few years.
A few years.
You know,
few decades.
A few decades. And it's interesting because if someone were to ask me, do you talk about your past? I would say no, that you don't talk about your past, but your past kind of talks through you.
Right.
So it wasn't so much that you would be sitting there go, oh, by the way, I was in a cult. By the way, I was in a cult. By the way, I was in a cult.
Remember that one time when I was raised in a cult?
Yeah, remember that? Do you remember that now? It was more of you would do certain things and you could see kind of that cult mentality or the brainwashing coming through actions that you would do. You know?
Right. We've been watching.
You'd get triggered over something. I'd be like, well,
what is wrong with that? Yeah, the whole 144,000 thing from the Lori Daybell, Chad Daybell is exceedingly triggering to me.
Well, I don't understand. What was
It's just a number, but it's just a number I see, and I get triggered back to my cult upbringing because it was a big number in the apocalyptic. To any apocalyptic religion, 144,000 is like a big number.
Is that a number from the Bible or something?
It is. It is. But it's written in ambiguity, so it could be it could be interpreted any way you want to. So yeah.
Yeah, and the Bible doesn't have footnotes, so.
Right, this means this, especially the Book of Revelation. Footnotes in the Book of Revelation. I was.
Footnote 1, see God. Footnote 2, see God. Footnote 3.
See DMT.
That's later. That's when he's in the wilderness and he hasn't eaten for 40 days.
Oh, so. Yeah. Well, he didn't see God. He saw Satan.
Yeah, he also saw God, I thought, too. But he definitely was on a DMT trip where his brain was dying. And was filling in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I used to always say that the Apostle Paul on that road, when he had his conversion, went to Christianity, was he had heat stroke. You read the passage, you're like, it's clear he had heat stroke. Right here.
All right, let's go back to Chad Franke here.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead.
You're going to ask a question?
Yeah, well, I did have this thought because, the issue that I have with everything is putting yourself back out there as quickly as he has after this. And I'm trying to make sense of it in my own, because I was not in a cult. So for me, my brain works differently or processes information differently. I have my own huge set of issues, but I'm wondering, is this taking back the power from what he's gone through?
I think so. One of the things that he did, which I thought was really great, in one of the games he was playing Minecraft, and he labeled all the Minecraft artifacts based on the Jody Hildebrandt branding. So he called Distortion Islands.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's a way to do that. Another comment in there was that he should sell merch that says Distortion on there. And I'm like, I would totally.
We both would totally buy that.
Because that's what I did. I was labeled an apostate.
Yeah.
I was told I was an apostate. And I realized that's such a great word. And so I just owned it. It's like, yeah, I'm an apostate. And I would buy merch anytime that it's had the word apostate written on there. And so it's a way to kind of take the power back. And that's what he's doing with owning that. And if he sold merch that said Distortion on it, heck yeah, that's a way of owning and reclaiming your power and not allowing yourself to be triggered by those words.
Right, Chad, just to let you know, if you are listening to this, we would buy your merch.
We would totally buy it.
Yeah.
We would totally buy it.
You're going to have 2 customers right here. So
yeah, it's such a great idea. And it's a good way to take your power back by going on streams and answering the questions that you want to answer and making fun of it. He's done a really good job at making fun of the whole situation. It's a little bit macabre, but dark humor can be good.
It can be
good,
especially whenever you're dealing with trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have this question too, because he would often say no comment. Not, I don't want to talk about it. Just no comment.
Yeah.
Is this maybe tied to what was her name? The one that we had discussed her before, that there was another woman involved that hasn't been charged yet. Oh,
Pam Bacher. Yeah.
Yes.
So he talked about her.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if he was told by counsel or by his legal representation not to.
No. Because someone in the stream asked him specifically about Pam Bacher. And they said, why hasn't she been charged? And he said, I think she's in hiding. I don't know why she hasn't been charged. She should be charged. So he specifically called it out and said that.
But that's not details of the case either. So that's an opinion that's outside of the realm. So
I don't think so. I think when he's saying no comment, I think it's because it was a stupid question.
Yeah.
Like, is your family racist? It's Utah. There's no black people in Utah. Black people are.
So is the answer yes?
I don't know. That was such a stupid question.
It is a really stupid question.
It's like Utah, it's 99.99% white.
Yeah, and I don't even understand the context of that question either.
Yeah, I know. It was stupid. So like
did she go on racial tirades, or was it more of just, there's no black people in your video? Well, it was about my family. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. And one of the things that really kind of confused me is, why is this story so popular?
Over anything else.
Why are so many people interested in this Franke story? And I was trying to wrap my head around it, and I think because people feel like they were duped. And they were duped. They really were. So, and he explained that when he was streaming. He said that they would film scenes over and over and over again till they got it to what she wanted. Yeah. So it was a filmed reality show, essentially, where people were looking at their life as this beautiful family in this beautiful house, and they were envious. One of the comments really kind of got me choked up, because it said, the person said that their channel helped them when their family was going through this tragedy, and they would watch the 8-passenger show and feel comforted through the trauma that they were going through with the loss of their family member or whatever it was. So people were looking at this family as this role model as family. A model family, as so great.
Wow.
And then, but the reality was not that. And wishing so, and I remember being in a cult that like completely different than that, but watching television, thinking the world was like that, and wishing I could be on silver spoons, right? You know, like that's really what the world is like. And the world is not like that. The world is anything you see on social media, on YouTube, these
on
family
TV.
vloggers, all of it. None of it's all scripted. It's all fake. And so to look at a family vlogging channel and to get comfort from it, you're getting this artificial comfort because it's not real. And this story has proven that it's a sham.
Right, but we could say that about a lot of different things too in our life, that a lot of the things that we get comfort from are not based on reality. Like we get comfort in, living in the United States of America because we have this certain ideal, but it's not the reality. And especially if you're overseas in a third world country, the reality of America is completely different from the reality that we tell ourselves every day. And the news and social media is all scripted around this idealized version of what America is, what families are. And we still have people that are like, the nuclear family is the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. And it's not how, like, you watch the news and you notice, like when they're really dealing with people, they're not a nuclear family. They're, different races, different cultures, gay, straight. I mean, the reality, and I'm using air quotes here, of what we see in our daily lives is so completely devoid of what a true reality of living in America is.
I don't know how that applies to the Frankies.
Well, it's the idea that if you're watching social media or news to get comfort from what you're seeing, I think we need to flip the script on what we're seeing. Like there should be a question of perfection, of any idealized version of how we live our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so someone could get comfort from a vlogging, that's really hard to say, vlogging family.
Right.
And just understand that.
This is probably not a reality.
But that's really hard because they're presenting themselves as a reality. And I don't know. And I think people feel really duped. They feel like they were used by the situation. And they want to get answers. But I think Chad Franke needs answers himself. Mm-hmm. He's very much in that liminal space of, do I have answers? I don't have answers. Trying to figure things out.
Do you think he's in that space where he can go destructive with his life?
Oh yeah,
at this point?
It's a dangerous spot to be in. It's easy, and we've seen it before, where other people have gone crazy when they're in that space. They've just recently had their freedom, and now they're going to do and try everything, or they get so despondent about what they've lost that it sends them into a destructive cycle.
Right.
And
the only way to get it back is by going back to a cult.
Right.
Which is
right.
Not good.
But I think he's from what I saw, and again, this is all just external based on my own opinion. So I think he's in this liminal space where he probably doesn't have the words or the vocabulary. I remember being in that space also, where I wasn't able to explain where I was. You're just surviving. And he seems like he's got a good group of friends around him, like where he was gaming, but he was gaming with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's family seems to have accepted him, and that's really nice too.
And all of his gaming friends were giving him shit too, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
Which is also means they feel comfortable enough around him and his attitude right now.
Right.
To be able to do that without him knowing that he's going to be like, you need to, they're not triggering him by giving him shit.
Right.
And that's a good place.
Right. So he seems like he's got a good attitude. He's got a good group of friends. He did say he was going to therapy and how hard that was because his last therapist was a crazy person.
God damn. What was it, a Mormon support group therapist or something?
It was Jody Hildebrandt was his last therapist. So yeah, it was a good joke that he did.
See, I didn't even... Yeah. See, I don't know enough of that story. That's a good joke.
Yeah, it was a good joke. Remember he was giving her like almost all of his paycheck that he was making.
Yeah, I didn't know about that either.
We did talk about it in a previous podcast,
yeah,
but you were.
It's Jody.
Yeah.
Don't care about her.
Yeah, don't care about her. So he is going to therapy. And one thing that, when I left, there was not really a whole lot of internet activity. Mm-hmm. And so I had to do a lot of research to find a therapist that had any kind of cult experience. But that's really the most important thing to do is because there are lots of therapists, but you have to find somebody that has cult experience or was in a cult because they just don't get it. They just don't get the kind of programming that you have to work through. Yeah. And you'll end up getting a lot of flack from a therapist if they don't understand that process of deprogramming and reprogramming your brain.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's found somebody that has experience with that kind of cult programming. But yeah, he's definitely going to a therapist. He said, which I thought was really funny, he said that Jody Hildebrandt smelled. Because the dad even said that too.
Yeah, but everybody smells.
Yeah, I guess. Smelled bad.
But you have a nose for.
I just started laughing. And now she's in jail. She doesn't ever have to take a shower. Or prison or wherever she is.
I would say that would be considered a stink. She has a stink.
She has a stink about her, yeah. Yeah, which I thought that was hysterical. One thing I didn't know about all of this was I saw this video of Ruby Franke hysterically crying in her car. Now, I had seen the image of her crying, but I didn't know what it was.
There's no context.
There was no context. I didn't know what it was. So apparently she had this monumental meltdown over her daughter who was in a dance class dancing to a, who was it? T-Pain? T-Pain, Florida song, a T-Pain and Florida song. And I just know Florida from the Silicon Valley. Anyway, it's a good song. Good like dance
Is that
song.
the one that you played before? I think you played it for me earlier.
Low. Yeah.
Yeah.
Apple bottom jeans. That's a good song.
I mean, it's not great, but it's catchy.
Yeah, it's a good song to dance to.
Yeah.
So he was singing that song in one of his streams. So
it's hilarious
because it was, and so that made me go look at the that video and listen to the song, which I thought was funny. And that reminded me of one time my mom had a monumental meltdown, very similar to that. I was in the school play. So I took dance. And as you know, I barely have a 10th grade education, right? So because the cult didn't want to educate girls.
Well, or anybody, because why be educated?
The end of the world, the ends of the world's coming. So
yeah, you don't need no PhD to survive the apocalypse.
Right. So with my 10th grade education, well, in 10th grade, I had to take a gym credit. And so I took a dance class at the high school as part of the gym credit. And one of the requirements for the class was I had to dance in the school play. And the school play was, what was it? I remember the song called We Love You Conrad. It was based on Elvis Presley's life. I'm going to look this up because I didn't look this up. I didn't know I was going to be telling this story. From Bye Bye Birdie. So the school play was Bye Bye Birdie, We Love You Conrad. And it's a satirization of the life of Elvis Presley. So I had two backup dance numbers in Bye Bye Birdie. And it was like jazz hands, jazz hands. It was so stupid.
Yeah.
On the way home, my mother started screaming at me for lewd dancing to Bye Bye Birdie. We Love You Conrad. She kicked me out of the car. She was screaming at me so bad for lewd dancing. Kicked me out of the car.
For jazz hands.
For jazz hands. And I had to walk home. And I had to drop out of the dance class and get another gym credit somewhere else. Like, she had a monumental freak out over...
What the hell?
Absolutely nothing. And it reminded me of... Because I listened to that Apple Bottom song. Yeah. And it's just modern. And
I mean, there's some lyrics in there that are, a bit lewd. But... I mean, nothing compared to anything else that's out there. So.
No, yeah. not like the gyrating hips of Elvis Presley.
Oh, you're going to hell for just thinking about those hips. Those gyrating hips.
Those gyrating hips. It's the same.
Hey, his eyes are up here, okay?
Yeah, so it reminded me. Again, I see this correlation of Ruby Franke, Lori Vallow. My mother was exactly in that same. In fact, what was really interesting too is someone asked him on stream what his favorite TV show was or what his favorite movie was or whatever.
Yeah.
And he said, Sins of My Mother. And that was that Lori Vallow documentary on Netflix. Oh, really? Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Because there's this commonality between all of them. And the commonality that I saw when I watched these two women, it just was so familiar. That vacuous, I'm going to follow, I'm going to freak out. All of it was just like.
And isn't your mom blonde as well?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
And my mom was a beautiful, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, tall woman, just like Lori Vallow and Ruby Franke. And, maybe we could post a picture of them.
Have all three of them together? Yeah.
And my mom, it'd be surprising.
You wouldn't be, like the questionnaire is who's who?
Yeah. So that's what kind of drew me to these stories. And then the more that he talked, the more I was like, wow, that same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
Where I was ostracized for just being a normal person because I'm an ultimate sinner. The same with Chad. He's just a normal kid and trying to do the best he can. And
do you feel that that's why you resonate so much with him?
I do. And I resonate with that time and where he is in his life. Because I've been there, and I've been there where I'm trying to figure out what's right or what's wrong. And that's the thing is everyone's so critical of him. I think he's doing...
Are people really critical of him?
Yeah, a lot. The same way that they were critical of Ruby Franke's admission of guilt and her guilty plea. And that's another interesting thing. Someone asked him on stream his opinion about that. And he said... he made a joke first because he said, oh, yeah, it was like she was giving an Oscar speech. We made a similar joke to that. She was thanking everyone like Monty Python.
Right.
But... what he said was that he believed her, that he knew her well enough to know that what she said sounded authentic.
Right.
And he knew when she was faking because they had gone through so much fake acting before.
They've been staging it for years.
And he said he believed her. He wanted to have a relationship with her. And I can tell you from experience, if my mother said what Ruby Franke said, I would be on the road to recovery and I would forgive her also.
Yeah.
Now, what Lori Vallow said is more in line with how my mother thinks and acts. And that she did nothing wrong, that people just randomly die, that...
Doubled down on the crazy.
She doubled down on the crazy. And that's exactly how my mom would act. Like, I could never expect an apology like Ruby Franke did.
Yeah.
Now, whether she was playing to the cameras with all the thanks, I don't know. But whatever. She did something. She did something, and he said he believed her and he forgave her. I don't know if he said he forgave her. He said he would like a relationship with her.
Yeah, that's different. That's different. Not forgiveness.
So I don't know if he forgave her. And he has every right not to forgive her and to handle however he wants to handle it.
Right. And you could even see a relationship as being, I'm talking to her now where at this moment I'm not. talking to.
Right.
Because she's still got to spend time
in prison. Yeah.
So I think it was 15 years that she was sentenced or something like that.
It's I don't know.
Yeah, well, sentencing is always complicated in every...
Because it's based on the parole board in their case.
Oh, that's right. Still got to go to parole board for final sentencing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I guess the bottom line is I am really interested in this story also. I'm really interested in how well Chad, he's got an older sister that they labeled bad, which is another interesting thing that came out of the streams that he was doing. His older sister was trying to alert authorities, was trying to get help. And he said they had labeled her, they had othered her and labeled her really bad. And
the dark versus the light thing.
Right.
Like with the Daybells, yeah.
Yeah. And he said, and it turned out my older sister was right. So I'm hoping that through this, he can kind of see that it was a cult on top of a cult.
Right.
Because he's still 100% Mormon. And you can understand why. You can understand in this point, he's pretty much lost everything like I did. You lose your home, you lose this identity that you got through this cult leader. He lost his mom. Essentially, his dad is like, he lost his dad too. He's lost everything. And I was in that space too. So you cling to what you can, and what he can cling to is the Mormon church.
Right. And that's what I always, I can have my issues with religion and with churches, but the one thing that churches do give you is community. And
yeah.
Whether that's good and bad, I'll leave that up to everybody's own opinion. But in this circumstance, I could see that being a major draw, and like out of everything that's a pile of shit, he at least has a form of community inside of the church.
Yeah, he's planning on going on a Mormon mission.
Right.
And
which again, I think is another form of control for himself.
Yeah, like he's controlling, he's going to go on a mission.
Right. And
good for him. Good for him to at least make that decision. Hopefully when he gets older, he can realize that the Mormon church is not as great as...
Yeah, maybe.
And maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe
it doesn't matter.
He can be, what do they call it, Jack Mormon?
Because there are lots of Mormons out there that don't run into these issues.
Right.
They have their set of rules, and they agree and believe with them, and that's it. I'm also wondering, too, is this girlfriend Mormon?
Oh, yeah.
And in the church? Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 That makes a lot of sense.
And I think all of his friends are... you can't... In Utah, it's so hard. And I remember
find someone that's not a Mormon.
Not a Mormon, yeah. I had some... No, it's... we have to do a whole podcast about my life in Utah.
Yeah.
Because people assume, like, you lived in Utah, you're a Mormon. It's like, no, I was in a totally different cult. But it's like a cult in a cult world around cult people.
But not their cult.
Not in their cult. It's, like, so weird. Like, we were talking about Teal Swan. Teal Swan is kind of an outcropping of crazy Mormon also. But I don't think her family was Mormon. She created her cult inside of Utah. So, she was not Mormon.
So weird.
Very strange person. That's a strange cult.
Go start your cult in other states. Come on, just stick out of Utah for a bit.
I don't know. Utah, if you're going to start a cult, Utah is probably a good place for it. Out in the country, get a cheap parcel of land, do your thing.
Yeah, so what do you think's next for Chad? Like if knowing where he is right now, like, do you... I know this is crystal ball stuff, right?
Yeah. If I could wave a magic wand for him, knowing what I know now, I would say he would figure out a way to make a really good living off of media. Use the crap that he has gone through and catapult that into some kind of media career. He's good looking enough. He's charismatic enough. He's learned enough of that kind of marketing. He could really do well for himself if he wants to. If not, I would really suggest going on a mission and then going to college.
Yep.
But he's going to make mistakes. He's going to make so many mistakes, and that's okay.
Yep.
The problem is that where he's in the time of his life, he's been through so much trauma and had so much and he's lost everything on camera, essentially.
Yep.
And so when I went through that, I mean, I was going through it privately on my own, losing everything. It's a very different set of circumstances to be on camera, to have every little move scrutinized. So I feel for him for that. So I think even if he decided not to be on camera, everything he did would get back to TikTok anyway, and it would come out. So
yeah,
you might as well just embrace it, and try and make some money off of it. Create some merch. Do these questions and answers.
So you're thinking is don't let others dictate how you appear on video. Do it yourself, and kind of screw the consequences, because it's his own life. He can live it however he wants to.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
He doesn't have to be wholesome. If he wants to be wholesome, he can. If he doesn't, but really about owning those words, reclaiming his power, reclaiming what he needs.
Yeah. And I think that's the big takeaway for me on this is the ability to take your power back after you've had it taken from you.
Right.
Is a big deal.
Yeah. And I think he can do that by just living his life the way he wants to. And just, if he wants to answer questions about his family, answer questions about his family. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But
he doesn't owe anybody anything. That's the other thing too.
Yeah. And that's another thing when you're leaving, is you don't know what your boundaries are. All of his boundaries have been smashed and torn apart. So even when he tried to set a boundary in his life with his mother, she smashed it and tore it apart. Yeah. She never respected anyone else's boundaries but her own. And growing up in that exact same situation, that's the hardest thing to learn, is how to set boundaries and then how to keep them. And so my piece of advice would be, find a therapist that has cult experience, but has experience with how to set up those boundaries. Because if somebody's pushing you, especially in a media context, to do something, you don't want to do it. And I saw that in his streams. People would say, "Oh, we want to see your abs. Take a picture of your abs, or take a picture of your feet." And he'd be like, "Okay," because he doesn't know where his boundaries are. He doesn't know, and that's going to take him years to build up. Yeah. After they've all been torn away by his family, and torn away by Jody, and torn away by that.
But also sounds like something a 19-year-old would do anyways. That wasn't in a cult.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Maybe.
You know.
And any 19-year-old really is trying to figure out their own boundaries, because they're coming from their family.
That's my point, yeah.
Yeah.
But at least they have a background of that there's people they can go to and that they trust. And that's what I'm hoping his friends would give him, is like, dude, you need to stop that shit, or whatever it is.
Or his girlfriend's mom, his girlfriend.
But also, if that's what he wants to do, and if that's the path he wants to take, then he's owning that. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to dictate, because we're dictating our own, like, we understand where that can lead to kind of future, but it's his own life too. It's really difficult to look at this guy, because he's not a kid anymore. He's an adult.
Yeah.
Yep. And to look at this guy and go, there's a good way here that there's a path that you can take, and just want to help you. But that's not what he needs.
No.
He's got this is his stuff to figure out on his own. And possibly with a therapist. Therapist might hurt him more than help him. Could be. Who knows? You can't trust every therapist just because they're a therapist. Obviously. So who knows what his life is going to be. But I honestly think that if he stays true to himself, then he's going to be fine. That's really all it is.
I do too. I think he has all of the makings to be successful. I think he's got enough charisma points. He has enough good looking points. He has enough experience with media points. I think he's got everything to line up to have a successful career, whatever it was, even if it is selling cars. Yep. Like, he could go sell cars O.J. Simpson style, and he would be great at it.
He'd be great at it. Yep.
So I think good things are going to come to him.
I really hope so. I do. I wish him well. I honestly, just coming out of like having an abusive father, abusive mother relationship is rough enough, but to get it from all angles and then adding people into your family that are more abusive than the person that was there to begin with, it's just, I really do hope for the best for him.
Yeah, I do too. All right. Thank you for listening. That's the end of our podcast.
All right. I'm Carl.
I'm Nicole.
Thanks so very much.